What's up everyone, Brother Darcblade here with another patch information video for Space Marine 2. This is regarding patch 4.1 which was released today, which is Thursday the 25th of October 2024. The patch is approximately 1.9 gigabytes depending on what system you are on, and ultimately this patch addresses some of the issues and concerns that were implemented with the patch 4.0 update. Namely in that the devs were worried that the reception that previous patch had received in that it made the game too hard. Basically this patch addresses that. So let's quickly go over what has changed and what has been adjusted. Now basically there have been changes to gameplay and balance tweaks in operation mode, so PvP mode and the campaign haven't really been touched. Now first of all, the AI director and enemy spawns. The developers have said that their reasoning before patch 4.0, when the game came out in September, the ruthless difficulty win rate hovered around 60%. Weeks later, and with the changes introduced in patch 3.0, we saw the same win rate jump to over 80%, and we received a lot of feedback stating that the game had become too easy, even on maximum difficulty. I hate to say, but I kind of agree that the game had become a lot more easier with patch 3.0. I also understand that if a game becomes too easy, then people will drop off from playing it. It's hard to find that kind of in-between balance. But anyway, they go on to say with patch 4.0, our aim was to tweak enemy spawns to increase the overall number of enemies rather than reverting to buffing their health. Unfortunately, this had an impact on the easier difficulty levels as well, making the easier difficulties more difficult. They go on to say, for example, the win rate on the easiest difficulty dropped slightly after patch 4.0 from 95% win rate to a 93% win rate. This may not look like a lot, but numbers aren't everything. Your feedback made it clear that the game had become more intense and stressful on lower difficulties, and this was never our intention. As I've personally emphasized in interviews, Space Marine 2 is all about power fantasy, and patch 4.0 negatively impacted it for many of you. This is why we are rolling back these changes. Extremist enemy spawn rates in minimal, average and substantial difficulties will be reverted back to their pre-patch 4.0 levels and will be significantly reduced in ruthless difficulty to hopefully strike a balance between how hard the game was at launch and how easy it was with patch 3.0. So that's their reasoning behind what is changed with this patch, but what actually has changed? Well, like they said, minimal, average and substantial difficulties, they've reduced the spawn rate of extremist enemies to match the pre-patch 4.0 levels. On ruthless difficulty, they significantly reduced the spawn rate of extremist enemies as well. So ultimately, I don't know if this is going to make a huge difference. I think it will do, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, they go on to say that they've made various changes to the weapons in the game, namely the bolter family of weapons. All the bolt rifles have had their damage increased. So that's the auto bolt rifle, the normal bolt rifle, heavy bolt rifle, stalker bolt rifle, the marksman bolt carbine, the instigator bolt carbine, the bolt sniper rifle, the oculus bolt carbine, and the heavy bolter. Next up were various changes to the difficulty of the game, including on ruthless mode, players' armor has been increased by 10%. The previous patch, 4.0, reduced the armor of players on this difficulty by 20%, so it's a slight buff to what it was. The main reason they haven't buffed it further, or why they nerfed it in the first place, was that as a result of patch 3.0, minor enemies would no longer remove an entire chunk or pip of armor from your Space Marines, ranged AI damage was nerfed across the board, and you had the ability to regenerate your armor by simply parrying Minoris attacks quite easily. But that being said, 20% maybe was a little bit too much of a nerf, so they've bumped it back up by 10%. Additional notes as well, that despite being listed in the last patch notes, the decrease of armor in substantial difficulty was mistakenly left out of that update. That is why there has been no change to substantial difficulty in regards to armor, despite it saying that it was nerfed in the previous patch. Also sticking with difficulty are changes to the lethal difficulty mode, which is the new difficulty they added to the game. Basically, they have removed the tight formation system. Initially, I was in favor of this new mechanic, which was a mechanic that only allowed you to restore armor when you were in close proximity to your battle brothers. Thus, you had to move around in a little bit more of a squad rather than wandering off on your own. However, the devs felt that it brought a new challenge that was not enjoyable to the game. As I mentioned or suspected, Certain classes like the Assault and Vanguard, they felt penalised as they would often want to break away from the group or ranged players. So as a result, the system has been removed entirely, and they'll continue to work on modifiers until they are ready. Next up are changes to the AI. There have been 2 changes here. First of all, bots will now deal 30% more damage to bosses. This will be great for solo players. And Zoanthropes, the shield swap cooldown with another paired Zoanthrope has been increased by 10%. Finally, a few general and tech fixes. They fixed a bug that caused roll distances to be shorter than before. The iframes were the same, but your Space Marine wouldn't actually move as far. They also fixed a bug in unlocking the lethal difficulty rewards, as well as various crashes and stability improvements. So there we have it. Those are all the changes that came with patch 4.1 for Space Marine 2. Obviously the main reason for this patch was to address the difficulty concerns introduced with patch 4.0, which were welcome and unwelcome, shall we say, in my point of view. Personally, I loved the introduction of lethal difficulty. It felt like an absolute challenge, a blast to play, and you're not guaranteed to complete it every single time, which is something I like. It's something that we're striving towards, because they recommend we take this on when we're maxed out. It's an end game, well, operations end game challenge. So it's not something we can be expected to farm over and over again. But the other difficulties, like Ruthless and especially Substantial Mode with patch 4.0, it felt they had become incredibly harder. So reverting some of the changes back, I can definitely see helping in the long run. But I'll leave a link down in the description below to the patch notes so you can check them out for yourself. Overall though, what are your thoughts? Are these changes welcome? Or did you actually enjoy them making everything more difficult? Please leave a comment down below. And until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a patch information video for Space Marine 2. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like for more.